Have you ever stopped to think about just the sheer size of the industries behind some everyday items? Things you barely notice, right? Like a scooter tire. Seems small, but can actually be the heart of this, well, huge global market. It's kind of this hidden momentum, quietly powering how our cities work.
So today we're doing a deep dive into exactly that, the global scooter tire market. And trust me, it's way more dynamic, more impactful than you might think at first glance.
Absolutely. And we're not just, looking at surface level stuff here. We've got some really fascinating data. Starts back in 2021, gives us projections for 2025, and then looks even further ahead, like all the way to 2033. What's really illuminating, I think, is breaking it down by region, by country. You see some surprising leaders and some really fast-growing spots. Right. So our mission for this deep dive is basically to pull out the key insights from the sources we've got, give you a shortcut, sort of to understanding this really bustling market. Think of it like uncovering the hidden engine behind, well, urban mobility today. Let's get into it. Okay, so let's start big picture, the global view. When you look at the whole market for scooter tires worldwide, the numbers are genuinely pretty impressive. Back in 2021, it was already worth almost $1.9 billion.
Yeah, just shy of 2 billion.
That's a lot of tires keeping scooters moving.
It really is. And the path from there is, well, even more telling. This market isn't just growing steadily, it's actually accelerating. We're looking at projections hitting nearly $2.5 billion by 2025, and then surging again to over $4 billion by 2033.
Wow, over $4 billion.
Yeah. And that represents a compound annual growth rate, the CAGR, of about 6.5%. What that really tells us, that consistent CAGR, it signals this isn't just a temporary spike. It's a sustained, powerful shift. Scooters are clearly becoming fundamental to transport globally.
That sustained growth, yeah, that's quite something. So, okay, with that global number in mind, the big question is where? Where is this happening most? Which parts of the world are leading this scooter tire boom? Any surprises?
Yeah, let's definitely dive into the regions because that's where it gets really interesting. Maybe not a huge surprise, but the Asia-Pacific region was really driving global growth initially. It accounted for, let's see, over $630 million back in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
And it's projected to climb to almost $1.4 billion by 2033. That's maintaining a really strong CAG, nearly 7%.
And why is that so strong there?
Well, you drill down and it makes sense. China, for instance, is expected to more than double its market size. We're talking over $570 million by 2033. That's driven by, huge populations, government pushes for electric mobility, and just a deep cultural reliance on two-wheelers.
Right.
India, too, shows huge growth, on track for almost $285 million, which really reflects those incredibly dense cities where scooters are just, well, practical.
The most practical option, yeah.
Exactly. And Japan, South Korea, Australia, Singapore, they're all significant contributors to its broad.
Okay, so Asia-Pacific is definitely a powerhouse. Makes total sense given the urban density. But what about North America? How does that region compare? It was also a big player, right?
Absolutely. North America had a really significant share, almost $550 million in 2021. And it's forecast to grow to over $1.1 billion by 2033. That's a solid 6.3% CAGR.
Still very strong.
Definitely. And what's interesting within that, the U.S. market is projected to more than double, over $900 million.
Wow.
But then look at Mexico. That's perhaps the real surprise here. It shows an explosive CAGR, over 7.2%.
Really? Why Mexico?
It suggests, rapid urbanization, maybe, a population embracing micromobility, perhaps because of congestion or economic shifts. It's growing fast. Canada also shows strong, steady growth, too.
That Mexico number is genuinely fascinating, really highlights that hidden momentum idea. Okay, now let's shift focus. Let's look at Europe. It's such a diverse place. How does the scooter tire market stack up there?
Europe's another big piece of the puzzle, just over $510 million in 2021. Projections put it over $1 billion by 2033.
Okay.
If you look at the key markets back in 2021, Germany was leading, almost $120 million. Then the UK, around $80 million. France, Italy, Russia. They were all over $50 million each. Spain's significant, too.
So distributed across several big countries.
Exactly. But what's really interesting is the category called Rest of Europe. This group of, smaller countries collectively. It's actually the fastest growing bit within Europe. It goes from about $56 million in 2021 to a predicted $170 million by 2033.
Get out.
Yeah, that's an 8.6% CAGR, almost 9%.
Wow.
It tells a story, I think, about rapid adoption spreading out, maybe into newer or less obvious markets across the continent.
Well, that's a huge surge from those smaller markets combined.
Mhm.
Suggests a really widespread shift. All right, we've covered the big ones. Let's quickly touch on some other regions, places where scooters might be newer but maybe just as important for getting around cities. How about the Middle East?
The Middle East, yeah, it's definitely part of the story. Generated just over $80 million in 2021, and it's projected to climb past $200 million by 2033. That's a significant CAGR, too,
The
7.6%.
street's strong.
Very strong. Countries like Saudi Arabia, Turkey, the UAE, all showing strong double-digit annual growth figures in the data. The UAE actually leads the pack there with a 7.7% CAGR. It hints at, big infrastructure changes and growing adoption of personal transport in those rapidly developing cities.
Makes sense. Okay, and briefly, South America and Africa, are they also seeing this upward trend?
They are, absolutely. South America shows consistent growth. It's going from about $76 million in 2021,
Yeah.
Proteco nearly $144 million by 2033. Brazil, as you might expect, leads there. But Argentina, Colombia, Peru, Chile, they're all contributing significantly too. And finally, Africa. Starts from a smaller base, sure, around $53 million in 2021, but it's also expected to more than double, reaching over $115 million by 2033. Countries like Nigeria, South Africa, and the broader rest of Africa category all show steady upward movement. It just underlines how universal this need for accessible city transport is becoming.
So, okay, we've got a tour of the globe here, looked at the numbers, the key players. It's crystal clear this market is seeing this profound, steady surge everywhere. So what's the big takeaway? What's driving this? Beyond the impressive figures, why are we seeing such strong growth in what seemed like a niche area?
That's the key question, isn't it? And the sources really connect these numbers to bigger trends. The main driver, just a massive global increase in scooter adoption. Simple as that, almost.
Right. More scooters, more tires needed.
Exactly. Think about it. Cities are growing, becoming denser. People need efficient ways to get around. This has fueled the whole micro-mobility boom, hasn't it? Personal e-scooters, shared scooter schemes popping up everywhere.
You see them all over.
So as more people rely on these scooters for commuting, for errands, whatever, there's this natural growing demand, not just for new scooters, but crucially for quality replacement tires. That points to a huge and growing number of scooters already out there that need maintenance.
Ah, the replacement market. Good point.
Right. So these humble little scooter tires, they're actually a perfect, tangible reflection of how our cities are changing, how people are choosing to move. It's literally where the rubber meets the road for these big societal shifts.
It really is amazing how something like a scooter tire can mirror these huge fundamental changes in society. We've seen this market's surprising scale, its consistent growth, from Asian megacities to North American suburbs to diverse European centers. It's clearly not just about rubber. It's about an evolution in how we move, efficiency, accessibility, changing cities.
Precisely. And this deep dive, I think, it really shows how these foundational components, they can be powerful indicators of broader economic shifts, lifestyle changes, understanding these micro trends, the demand in Mexico or the growth in the rest of Europe. It helps us grasp that bigger picture of how the world is literally moving, adapting to modern urban life.
Which leads us to maybe a final thought for you listening out there. As our cities keep changing, as transport needs shift, what other invisible markets might be out there? Those quiet corners we barely notice, but which might be having their own silent explosions of growth, reflecting big changes in how we live and move. Something to think about. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep digging into those hidden stories in the data.
Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're getting into something that might seem pretty everyday, but trust me, it's fascinating. The Global Scooter Tyre Market. Yeah, sounds specific, right? But there's a lot going on. Our mission today is to, unpack the key things driving it, the obstacles, and some trends that honestly surprised me. So let's start with the basics. We see scooters everywhere, especially in huge cities. Think Delhi or Ho Chi Minh City. It feels like they're the lifeblood for getting around, that whole last mile mobility thing. How does that sheer density, in places like India, Vietnam, China, how does that change things for the folks making the tires?
That's a really good place to start, because it's not just about selling more tires. It's a fundamental shift. What's really interesting, I think, is how this ties directly into the electric scooter boom. As cities push for greener transport, you get more e-scooters. And these aren't your old petrol scooters. The manufacturers, they have to innovate.
Innovate how? Like
Okay,
stronger rubber.
Well, yeah, partly. But it's more about handling the instant torque from electric motors.
Yeah.
It puts different stresses on the tire. Plus, they need to support battery efficiency, so the design, the materials, it's much more critical now.
Okay. So different types of scooters needing specialized tires makes sense. And what about money? Are rising incomes playing a part, especially in those big emerging markets?
Oh, absolutely. Higher disposable incomes, particularly with younger people, means more folks can actually afford a two-wheeler in the first place. And that doesn't just boost sales of new scooters, which it does, but it massively fuels the replacement tire market, too. It's this constant churn.
Right, tires wear out.
Exactly. And think bigger picture, too. Governments often help, right? Subsidies for electric scooters, maybe tax breaks. That indirectly pushes up tire demand because more scooters are hitting the road.
Okay, so demand is definitely there, driven by cities, electric tech, and rising incomes. But it can't all be smooth sailing. What are the big challenges? The bumps in the road, so to speak.
Yeah, definitely bumps. Raw material prices are a constant headache.
Yeah.
Rubber, carbon black, their prices swing quite a bit. They're tied to global stuff like oil prices, even environmental rules. It creates huge cost pressures for the manufacturers.
Yeah.
Tricky to manage.
I can imagine. And what about the tires themselves? Scooter tires, they seem to wear out faster than car tires, right? Especially bouncing around city streets.
They really do. Poor road conditions in many places. Plus, let's be honest, sometimes pretty aggressive riding styles. It shortens the lifespan significantly. And this raises an important point. While it means people buy replacements more often, maybe like fast fashion for tires,
Yeah.
it also makes people really sensitive to the price. We're always looking for a deal, which, fuels intense competition.
So lots of pressure on pricing. Any other hurdles, regulations maybe?
Definitely. You've got all these different countries with their own specific safety or compliance standards. It gets complicated, especially for brands trying to sell globally. It can kind of stifle designing one tire that fits all markets. Plus, you've got fierce competition from lots of local, often lower-cost manufacturers. Puts a squeeze on the premium brands.
Right, a complex picture. Okay, so despite the cost pressures and regulations, what's getting you excited? Where's the innovation happening? What are the cool trends?
Well, one really clear trend is the big shift towards tubeless tires. For city riders, the appeal is obvious.
Less hassle with punctures.
Exactly. Better puncture resistance, they hold air better, less maintenance overall. It's just more convenient and reliable, which people value. But what's really starting to emerge now is smart tire technology.
Smart tires. Okay, tell me more. Like sensors inside.
Precisely. Little sensors embedded in the tire itself. They can monitor air pressure, wear, even the temperature, all in real time. This is especially useful for electric scooters. You can optimize performance based on the data, maybe extend the battery range a bit, and it's a big plus for safety, getting that instant feedback.
Wow, okay. Data-driven tires. And are people buying them online more now too?
Yeah, absolutely. Online retail for tires is expanding fast. More people are comfortable buying on e-commerce sites, and you're seeing more options for like DIY or mobile fitting services coming right to your home. Convenience again.
Convenience and data.
Yeah.
Got it. What about the environment? Is sustainability a factor in the tire world?
Hugely. It's becoming a major focus for innovation. We're seeing development in bio-based compounds, exploring rubbers that are easier to recycle, cleaner manufacturing processes, all that stuff. And it's not just about ticking regulatory boxes, though that's part of it. It's also about meeting demand from consumers who are, more eco-conscious these days. They want greener products. It's pushing the whole industry forward.
So what does this all mean for you listening in? It really shows that even something like a scooter tire isn't simple anymore. You've got tech, sustainability, city growth, all mixing together and changing things fast.
Yeah, it really does. It highlights how these components we barely think about, the rubber hitting the road, are actually right at the intersection of major global shifts in technology and the environment. It impacts how we live in cities in ways you might not expect. Definitely something to think about next time you hear that scooter zip past.